Hey guys, so we've done a little bit of talking about flexible dieting so far on this trip, and I want to bring it up with you because I think you kind of struggle with it a little bit to get started.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really intimidating to a lot of people. And I think one of the things that I want to say up front is, try not to get too frustrated. For those of you who are starting out with flexible dieting, counting macros, try not to let it overwhelm you. Like, you're going to suck at it at first.
Yeah.
It's just like the first time you tried to do anything, you sucked at it, right? You didn't just walk in and learn how to do differential equations the first time you took a math class, right?
Exactly.
So my best advice to you is before you start trying to do anything with messing around with your macros is just track what you're eating now.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a great way to start. Just track what you're eating now. There's great resources online. My Macros Plus, MyFitnessPal. Try out different apps.
And that's
try
exactly
out different
what
websites.
you told me.
See what fits with you, what makes the most sense to you, and then start there. And if you don't know what your macros are, there's some good calculators out there. I personally have put together a computer system algorithm called Avatar Nutrition that calculates your macros based on a bunch of different inputs. But
it's amazing.
Basically, it's like a automated coaching service, and it'll adjust them every week depending on your goals and this sort of thing. And that's like $10 a month. So for $10 a month, you can get that idea if you can't afford a personal coach.
Especially how it's personalized and
right, yeah, it's individualized to your metabolism.
Yeah,
so even if it,
great.
for example, even if it calculated it wrong to start, if you let's say you're supposed to be on a fat loss, right, and you gained a couple pounds over the first few weeks, it would adjust your calories down in response to get you on the proper weight that you should be predicted at.
Right, because lots of people don't know their numbers, or what should I start at, or if I have this goal, what should I do?
Right, and
so this to calculate it for you.
So that can be a great option for people out there. But we have thousands of members, and one of the questions that gets asked a lot in our forum is, how close do I have to get to my macros? Because a lot of people look at how do I get to 300 grams of carbs and 70 grams of fat, and I've got 3 grams of fat left, and I've got 7 grams of carbs left. How do I hit that?
3 grams.
And I think one of the important things to realize is that you're looking to be consistent. Consistent is way more important than perfection.
Yeah.
And I tell people, if you're within 5 grams of each macronutrient, you're 100% compliant.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to think about it as just being consistent, because food labels, people don't know this, but food labels have a 10 to 20% error within that food label.
Yeah, Steve has told me that.
So, people will ask me all the time, they'll go on different sites, and different sites will have different numbers for different types of food.
Right.
And the important thing is consistency. So
consistency is key.
Pick one site or pick one value or whatever it is and stick with that and always track it that way.
Yeah.
Right? So however you do it, it's fine. You just keep doing it that way. It's like measuring body fat. Okay, so people say, should I do calipers? Should I do underwater weighing? Should I do DEXA? Let you in a little dirty secret. None of them are accurate.
Really? I just did a DEXA scan too.
But that's okay because if you do DEXA each time,
then it will be more consistent, correct?
It'll be consistent.
Yes.
Now the biggest thing is make sure you do it the same way each time. Make sure you try to eat the same foods before you've drank the same amount of water.
Yeah.
You do it at the same time of day. Because if you go in and get a DEXA, for example,
it's all going to vary.
In the morning, and you haven't eaten anything, drank anything, and you're at your lightest, whereas just go back and later that day after you drank a gallon of water or whatnot,
it's going to be off.
Your lean body mass will come in much higher because water registers as lean body mass. So I tell people probably the easiest way is just calipers first thing in the morning, because it's easy, everybody can do it. But, which one's more accurate doesn't even really matter because you're just looking at the relative change.
Yeah.
I know Alberto Nunez, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the leanest human being on the planet when he competes, has veins in his glutes.
What?
And yeah, it's crazy.
Possible?
And he DEXA'd at 6.4 when he was contest lean. There's no way. See, he looks like he's 2% body fat. You know what I mean?
6.4.
So it's one of those things where, who cares what that number actually is, because judges don't get on stage.
Right. That's very true.
The point is that I'm relating that to food, and that consistency is the most important part.
Yes.
And I think there's also a lot of misconception about flexible dieting. People think they have to eat junk food.
Right. Which is where, you kind of told me and helped me with, get ready for the show and everything. Maybe I'm not going to eat, what Steve eats, for instance.
Right. Steve's a very flexible
He's
diet.
very, very flexible. He just called me, and great example, I'm starving. I'm like, well, I'm still doing some film and stuff. All right, well, I'll just go get Chick-fil-A. Or me still right now, I'm like, I personally am not at that level like Steve. or you, where I feel 100% comfortable going and getting Chick-fil-A. Yes, post-show and things like that, and where I can maybe be a little more creative and, you know, have those certain things that I want. But since I'm so close, I do stick to the typical more, as Layne would say, people out there would say, bro food, whatever you want to call it.
Closet bro.
Closet bro, but I still track. I'm a closet bro that tracks, I promise. So, I mean, even just like, I kind of want to show you guys inside the fridge. So I'm 8 days out. Layne knows, you know, Steve lives here as well with me. Steve will have different things like, for instance, powdered peanut butter. Right now, I'm like, I'm not going to have that. He has peanut butter and jelly bites down here. Just different things he has, which aren't bad, and I'm not saying they're bad. In our freezer, sorry guys, it's kind of messy, we got like Halo Top ice cream back here, got some Ezekiel bread, acai berry packets. Will I eat this right now? No, I'm a bro, and I'm eating some white jasmine rice right now. Or even in our fridge, like we have different things, you know, and I'm not saying any of this is bad. Having Ezekiel bread is not bad for you. You can track that. What's the difference between Ezekiel bread and white rice? Probably nothing. Carb's a carb, right, Layne? Exactly. But for me, I'm still in that phase where I'm not a 100% really comfortable, flexible dieter yet. Yes, I know how to track, I know how to do numbers, but I'm not to that extent where I feel comfortable having that this close to a show. So, you know, even just different examples in here, like, you know, this is something I won't eat right now. Smoked turkey breast. Is there anything wrong with this? Absolutely not. Can you track this? Yes. Is it probably the same as an egg white or whatever? Yes. Different calories and things like that.
It's also about what you're comfortable with, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you're first getting into flexible dieting and you've been doing what you've been doing.
Right.
It can be hard to kind of undo that mindset. But also, just like, it's easier to track basic foods as well. They're just easier to track.
Exactly.
Whereas when you've got a lot of multi-ingredient foods, there's a lot more stuff that goes into that. It's a little bit harder to track.
It's a little more advanced, I guess.
And one of the things I tell people when you first start getting into flexible dieting, when you're tracking, it is a good practice to go, because people say, well, I don't want to take a food scale everywhere. I don't want to use a, you know, and yes, it is a pain in the butt, but I think it is useful for at least the first few weeks to weigh 100%. Everything, so you understand what a serving is.
Right.
You know, so you understand, like Steve and I went out earlier to a restaurant. And what was it? What did he say?
Poke. You guys said poke.
Right. So you have bowls of like rice and meat and then some vegetables and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we did an exercise where we both said, okay, we're going to try and guess what the macros are in Steve's poke bowl, right? And both of us guessed within 5 grams of each other.
Really?
Every single macronutrient.
Yeah, Steve is very good with that. That's one thing, I guess, about dating a legit flexible dieter. I think about it, I'm like, babe, how much am I eating right now? Okay, you got this much of this, where, you know, for me, I very much appreciate that knowledge and stuff, because I'm not saying I'm someone who knows it all at all, but I'm just starting out. I know how to, you know, count and track. In my off season or even post Olympia this year and things like that, I tracked other things that, you know, weren't bro food, I guess.
Right.
I would have, you know, different varieties of food and could go out and kind of guess, but I'm still not 100% comfortable. And like you said, at first it's kind of just about knowing, being consistent, because consistency is key, and just kind of figuring out what are my numbers, or what am I eating now? And
the important thing is too, is that flexible dieting isn't saying you have to eat this or this. What it's saying is you should never restrict yourself based on fear, right? Yeah. And if you choose, hey, I just don't really want to eat those foods. I just want to eat more basic right now. That's completely fine, as long as you don't feel like you're being like that it's causing you negative stress.
Exactly.
Now, the difference would be, the example would be, okay, you're eating these foods and you're still flexible dieting, as long as one night if you say, you know what, I really want that Halo Top, I really want that.
And
if you track it,
yes.
It's not a cheat. People ask me how often I have cheat meals, and I say I haven't had a cheat meal in years, because if I eat something that's a little bit different, or
you can track it, it's fine, exactly.
I track it and I just account for it, and it's done.
Right.
And at first, like I said, that's very intimidating to people, but after a while, you get the hang of it. Like you see me and Steve, we're not taking food skills everywhere.
No.
We're doing this based off eyeballing, and we're very accurate with it, because we've had that experience and we've done that.
Exactly.
But when you're first starting, you know, it's going to be, and also, like, as you get closer to show, I'm kind of with you, like, you know, I'm probably not going to get real fancy a week or 2 out from the show. Like, I'm going to be pretty basic.
Yeah.
You know? And that's, if you're just looking to maintain, you know, kind of a pretty lean physique, you know, this and that, you can afford to be a little bit more flexible.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You can allow a little bit more air and whatnot.
Right.
But if you're looking to get that last little bit of body
Just
fat
that
down,
last little bit.
sometimes you've got to be calorically, you're going to be a little more restricted, but also you got to be a little bit more precise.
Right,
And
exactly.
so that's when those things come in. But I think the point is, when you're starting flexible dieting, don't put that pressure on yourself to be perfect. And the best thing you can do, especially for competitors, is start in the off season. Start just tracking what you're eating, and then start trying to make adjustments. And understand that this is a tool that will stay with you for life. If you give somebody a meal plan, you're giving them a fish. If you teach them how to flexible diet, you're teaching them how to fish.
Yeah.
So they can eat for a day or eat for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And what I always tell people too, and Courtney, this is one of the big myths people have, say, well, flexible dieters just eat Pop-Tarts and whatever.
And that's how I first thought of it. When
Right.
I first got in, I'm like, oh, all they have is donuts and Pop-Tarts. Like, how does that work,
And the thing is you're not going to be able to do that, because flexible dieting, the best way I can describe it is like a budget, right? And so if you make $100,000 a year, right, and your budget's on $100,000, is it smart to go out and buy an $80,000 sports car cash?
No.
if that means you can't pay your rent and you can't put money away in retirement and you can't pay your utilities,
doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. But if you make $1 million a year and you can pay all your responsibilities, put money away, all that sort of stuff, and you've got some money left over to blow on a sports car, is that okay?
Yeah.
Then that's okay. And that's, your budget is determined by what your calorie intake is, right?
I like that.
And if you're able to eat more calories, like Steve has a pretty good metabolism. Steve can eat, he can go out and he can eat Chick-fil-A, and he can accommodate that, right?
Exactly.
But if somebody else who's on, 100 grams of carbs a day or a real low budget, they may not want to spend half their carbs or 3/4 of their carbs on a Pop-Tart.
Right.
Because it's not going to be filling enough to them.
Yeah,
Exactly. I showed Annette this earlier, like a pack of Skittles. I like Skittles for my post-workout or my pre-workout. It's 55 grams of carbs in this little pack of Skittles. That's not very filling for somebody on contest prep.
55 grams of carbs to someone who's on contest prep, that would be a good chunk of a day.
That'd be a third of my carbs when I was dieting down for contest, And so, do I want to spend a third of my carbs on a little bag of Skittles? No, I'd rather have a big salad or, something more filling. And actually, my co-host for Physique Science, Sohi, she won her Natural Pro Card bikini. And she did it eating a Snickers bar every day for contest prep to prove a point.
That's
right?
crazy. That's awesome.
And she said by a few weeks in, she didn't even want the Snickers bar.
Yeah.
Because she was like, it was not filling. You know, I got tired of it. I wanted a big salad, broccoli,
that's crazy.
whatever. So in that way, flexible dieting is self-regulating because if you have more calories, if you're somebody who has if you're a macro millionaire,
right.
And you can eat 500-600 grams of carbs a day and maintain your body weight, then you can afford to make it rain.
Right,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? But if you're somebody who's really restricted and you're down to lower calories, like some of you bikini gals have to get to get that last little bit of body fat off, you're not going to be able to do that. You're just not going to be able to do that because you're not going to hit your macros.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is that, I was going to debate, I talked about this earlier with Steve, I was going to debate this guy about flexible dieting versus clean eating. He backed out of the debate, of course.
Guys, never debate.
As a scientific
Person number one.
She knows. Don't debate a rocket scientist in rocket science. But, I went to his Instagram page, and one of the first things I saw was this big cheat meal he had. And I actually went through and added up all the calories from that cheat meal. It was 7,000 calories. And I went through and added up all the calories I get from non-bodybuilding foods or bad foods, as you would call it, per week. And it ended up being about 4,000 calories I get per week of
just kind of things you want. Right? If it's Skittles, this and that.
Hang on. So how is it you are eating clean when on your cheat day you're binging on more junk food than I have during my entire week?
Yeah.
So what I will say to you is people say, well, you can't tell me a Pop-Tart is better for you than a sweet potato. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that Pop-Tart keeps you from binging. It is better for you than a sweet potato.
Yep, and that's a problem I had, even before when I had that really bad relationship with food, is probably the same thing. I would go so low and I would eat clean, Monday through Saturday, but Saturday night rolls around and it's like, boom, you just go in and you're just eating and you're not even like hungry at that point. And it's like, that's when that bad relationship with food comes and your
And my guess is if you probably would start and say, I'm just going to have a little bit of this. And once you did that,
it just triggers.
Yeah. And there's actually science on that. It's called disinhibition. And there was actually a research study where, I can't remember the exact food they used, but they brought people in, either restrictive dieters or flexible dieters. And they said, okay, you have to eat, let's just say cookies, because I think it was, but I could be wrong. They said you have to eat at least one cookie. You don't have to eat more than that, but you have to eat at least one. And what they found was there was a much higher incidence of binge eating in the group that had been restricted dieters than those who were flexible.
I could see that, no doubt.
The restricted group, they go, well, I already blew it, so I might as well just go into
and that was my mentality, Layne. That's exactly how I felt.
When in reality, you just had that one cookie.
You know, this little bite of cake, so I might as well just, all right, night's over. Let's just go binge on everything. And it just led to just so many.
And I don't judge because I did the same thing during my first few contest preps. You know, I remember one night like shoveling like popcorn and ice cream and everything down my mouth.
I know one night, I'm not even gonna lie, I had the 7-pound bag of trail mix from Costco. Swear to you guys, I had about 3/4 of it.
Oh my God.
Stomach, it looked like one of those like 212 bodybuilders where their stomachs were a little distended. I was like on my couch, I couldn't even breathe. I'm like, Mom, I have to go to the hospital.
Oh my God.
I don't know, I look like 8 months pregnant or something, but yeah. And that is like, did I need to eat like 6 pounds of trail mix? Literally, I almost finished a 7-pound bag from Costco.
And if you
I'm not bragging.
And if you had a system in place,
right, where I could have that serving of trail mix every day because I wanted it and it kept me sane and it wasn't a cheat. Yes, exactly. So that's just something now that, you know, I've gotten a lot better with, or even like, you know, I'm close to a show and being able to go out to eat still or have, you know, date night with Steve or do whatever because it's okay for me and I can kind of track it and figure it out. It keeps me mentally so much better off.
And when you I think one other thing to bring up is there shouldn't be ethical judgments placed on food. You should never act superior for I'm not superior for doing flexible dieting versus someone who does restrictive dieting. What I'm saying is I just feel like this is a more reasonable approach for most people and it's going to produce better results in the long run as opposed to something that's going to make people feel bad about the way they eat, you know, and just like I'm not a fan of guilt and negative reinforcement. Yeah. And like my friend Sohi says, you know, if the diet you're on, you can't see yourself that way of dieting, of doing it in 12 weeks or 6 months or a year. You have got to rethink your plan because it's going to fail, right? And she also said that, you know, there should never be ethical judgments placed on food. Yeah. Right? And that I really like that. So
that's very true.
And I think the point of this, and we went through a nice like looking through the fridge and everything, is that it's what is flexible dieting to you, right? Maybe it means for you that you eat turkey instead of chicken at one meal. Yeah. Or you eat white rice instead of oatmeal at a meal, right? And you're still hitting your macros, you still hit your fiber, all these sorts of things. But it's a give and take, right? So if let's say I wanted to replace steak or chicken with steak at a meal. Well, since steak has more fat, my fat budget, I have to then take that from somewhere else, right? So if I want to buy an $80,000 car, but I still want to take care of everything else, I have to make sure I take that $80,000 from somewhere else and save it from somewhere else. Yeah. So that's why it's like a budget.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that.
It's what flexible dieting is for you. If that means you have a couple Pop-Tarts per day and you can fit in your macro budget, awesome. If that means that you eat pro foods most of the time and every once in a while you allow yourself something, that's fine too. It's whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you enjoy. All right, guys.
Definitely more a mentally better way to live, in my personal opinion. Like Layne said, and like I said, they're not judging anyone who likes to do it the whatever way, but for long term, it's a lot better off. Take it from me. I've done it both ways. I've done the bro way, and then I've done the flexible approach and having what I want here and there because it keeps me okay in the long run. So that's our take on flexible dieting. Beginner 101, but I got the master helping me. So thank you guys. Check us out. Check him out. Layne, Courtney King on Instagram. Layne on Instagram. And
Layne everywhere.
Layne everywhere. Courtney King Fit. That's me. Bye, guys.